Kaufman is Alive. I look at comic books new and old. Today I'm looking at a new comic book going 10 years into the future. Looking at Amazing X-Men #1, a part of the Age of Revelation from Marvel Comics, the new X-Men crossover event. This issue is written by Jed MacKay. We got Mahmoud Asrar doing the artwork here, and he's on the cover as well. And this is the X-Men team we're dealing with here. We got Cyclops. This is Beast here, a white-looking Beast. Kind of reminds me of the McCoy character from the Rob Liefeld Major X series. I actually thought this might be at first, but as far as I can tell, this is just a different future version of Beast. Then we got Bird Girl here, who we found out is named Animalia in this issue, and also Glob, who really steals the show in this book. And Schwarzschild, and I'm still trying to figure out what or who exactly Schwarzschild is here, but he was a member of 3K's X-Men during the most previous X-Men run written by Jed MacKay. But here, 10 years in the future, he's the only member of the 3K X-Men that is on the current X-Men team. And then we got Cyclops, of course, from the past in the future here. And this issue is called Flight. It says Cyclops and Beast found their minds inhabiting the bodies of their older selves 10 years into the future, thanks to the X-Men of that time. The X-Men explained that Revelation was the one who released the X-Virus so he could establish himself as a savior king, and that they needed Cyclops and Beast's help to end his reign of terror. And we got Matt Wilson doing the colors, and we got Clinton Cowles doing the letters here as well. We get a little cast here of the team. I always love those. This first scene here is just kind of the team sort of meeting each other, and us as the readers meeting the team. If you haven't read this Age of Revelation overture, definitely read this before this #1 issue, because this #1 issue actually feels more like a second issue, because there's tons of stuff that happens in here, and I won't spoil it for you if you haven't read it or seen my video review of it. There's a ton of stuff that happens that is very important to what goes on in this book here. Now, Bird Girl here, I could just keep calling her Bird Girl because that's what Quentin Quire was calling her in the previous X-Men issue, so I'm just going to keep calling her that. I like that name better. But she's got a relationship with Henry McCoy, Beast, from back 10 years in the past, so they still kind of have a connection here, but he calls her Miss Starkey, which is her real name, and she goes, "God, you don't even know me yet, do you?" So clearly lots of things have happened to her over the past 10 years, but she gives him all the files, all the information that they have on the X-Virus so that Beast can look over it. Glob sends the team out into action here. Wolverine is on their trail, and we see Revelation here kind of taking over control of the mind of Wolverine, which is definitely something that we've seen before. He's using Fabian Cortez to amplify his own powers to control Wolverine here. But I think they do a great job of making Wolverine pretty terrifying in this issue and in this previous issue. Actually, I think this is very similar to what was going on in Ultimate Wolverine, where Wolverine was being mind-controlled by Colossus and the Eurasian Council. Pretty similar stuff. They're both really terrifying kind of versions of Wolverine that you can tell don't really want to be doing what they're doing, and they're being forced to. So nothing new here. The X-Men come across the Grey Malkin prison, which is now in ruins, the former X-Mansion. They see Dr. Ellis has been crucified here as a symbol to everyone else by Revelation. And then we get a nice little interlude scene here to break up all the talking and exposition about what's going on as all these ghosts kind of randomly show up. And then we see Deathdream from the Uncanny X-Men books. And we see that he's kind of controlling the ghosts and keeping them from getting out of control. And eventually Wolverine, we see him hunting them, and he attacks all the X-Men. So we get a cool battle between Wolverine and Cyclops and his X-Men, which I do like this, having Wolverine and Cyclops battle each other here in this first issue. And some pretty good artwork in here as well by Muhammad Massar. I like the, I don't know if he does pencil and ink, but I like the really thick like blacks in this book. And then there's some like really small little like cross-hatching lines in here. Actually, I think some of the bigger drawings look pretty well. And then when you get into some of the smaller drawings in here, like, or some of the smaller figures in the background, you could tell that there's just not as much detail put into them. But I really like some of these faces in here, and a lot. Like Revelation looks pretty awesome in this book. I like his Wolverine, looks really good as well. I believe he was the artist on the Wolverine book, if I'm not mistaken, on the most recent run. So Deathdream says, "I'm not afraid of dying," and then we get this Red Band approved splash page, blood splash page, you might say. Deathdream getting his head cut off by Wolverine here. Now, obviously, this is kind of an Elseworlds tale. It's in the future, and they're definitely playing fast and loose with the characters dying in this series so far. Kind of similar to the Age of Apocalypse. I will say, as much as I love the Age of Apocalypse, I kind of like just love being in that universe. This universe, not so much. It feels like if Krakoa had a dictator taking over, pretty much. So, and there's just something kind of unsettling about this world so far, whereas there was just something kind of cool about being in the Age of Apocalypse. I don't know if I could really explain it, but so the X-Men are all trying to get to this teleporter here to get away from Wolverine, and they're able to make it to the teleporter actually without any of the team members, I guess besides Deathdream, getting killed by Wolverine. So they fared much better in their second encounter with Wolverine. And Cyclops is saying, are we in Philadelphia still? He's trying to figure out where they are because it looks like they're in like a regular city with normal people in it. And Schwarzschild says, with all the ghosts, the teleporter glitched. We're in Providence. So they're in Providence, Rhode Island here. And we get Cyclops saying that compared to the Haunted Mansion that they were just in, this is like heaven. And then we get someone laughing saying, heaven, that's a dirty word around here, Cyclops. But you should know that, just like you should know not to enter my territory. And then we get the reveal of Magik and Juggernaut, along with Psylocke, who doesn't look too pleased to be with them or working for Revelation at this point. But we're in her territory, she says. She's the Dark Child. And Juggernaut's got a new look here as well, with these like tusks coming out of his cheeks here. So I guess when he rams you, he's almost got these like tusks jabbing you as well, impaling you. I've said this before, I always hate when there's a big giant splash page ad right next to like a splash page. You always get that in like a Marvel book, but then we get all the X books from Age of Revelation here, all the number ones. There's just way too many. Mentioned this before, back in the Age of Apocalypse, we only had like 5 or 6 books, but now we've got almost triple that here. I'm definitely not going to be reading all of these. Here's the cover to issue 2. I'll be picking up issue 2 and 3, and that's the end of the series. These are all only 3-issue miniseries, but I did like this setup in this one. I like following this team, the X-Men team. It seems like the most essential book out of all of these. So let me know what you guys think about this. Are you reading Age of Revelation at all? I really wish X-Men would evolve past these like Elseworld stories and then always just reverting back to the status quo after a few months, which we've already seen in the solicits. In January, they're going to be relaunching X-Men, the Shadows of Tomorrow line, and it just kind of looks like kind of typical X-Men stuff. But I liked what Hickman did with the X-Men, trying to evolve everything, or going back to what Grant Morrison tried to do with New X-Men. But it just seems like nothing ever sticks. And that's what I kind of would want out of this Age of Revelation, I would like some of this stuff to stick, like maybe Schwarzschild staying with the X-Men, some of these mutations or costumes continuing on. Some of, you know, the look of Cyclops here looks pretty cool. Another thing though, this is only 10 years in the future, but it does seem like super later in the future, like 80 or 100 years. Like it seems much more kind of futuristic when you're in the Revelation territories. So I picked up all these books so far, along with Radioactive Spider-Man, the giant fart cover. I do like this cover though by Kev Walker. I'll be reviewing all these books for sure. And let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Go read comics.